This episode is sponsored by Artifacts. Artifacts is based out of Front Royal, Virginia, and is a fellowship opportunity for Catholic men. Each month, they gather to network, socialize, and hear from inspiring speakers, building brotherhood, strengthening faith, and creating opportunities to grow together. For more information, go to www.artifacts.life or follow on Instagram at Artifacts Group VA. This upcoming Friday, April 17th, Artifacts is hosting their first pitch night. It's a Shark Tank style pitch night, complete with judges and a audience. And I have the third pitcher, I don't know if that's the right term, but I'm just going to use it. The third pitcher tonight, and he is representing a group of three. But unfortunately, he's the only person that lives locally. So tonight we have Scott. Is it Mathias?
Mathias, yeah.
Okay, Scott
like
Mathias.
The saint, but without the saint.
Like the saint without the saint,
and just
yeah.
one T.
Okay. So Scott Mathias is an award-winning indie film producer and screenwriter of both feature-length and short films, as well as web series. He was a lead writer and producer for the indie feature The Rise of the Fellowship, winner of Best Feature Film at the Gen Con Independent Film Festival, and a special jury award at the Richmond International Film Festival. The movie received domestic and international distribution. Scott also served as a writer and producer on the fantasy web series The Rangers, in addition to The Good Thief. He is currently working on a novel and several other projects. He's the co-partner with Gabriel Williams and Christopher Bunn, working on the Kairos Stories project. And I'm going to read a quick bio for Gabriel Williams. He's not present, but I do have a bio for him. So for those listening who are interested, Gabriel Williams is a storyteller on a journey to weave captivating tales and share them with the world, from whimsical realms of fantasy to gritty landscapes of realism, while also making pit stops in the land of comedy. Whether it's a short story, a TV series, or a screenplay, his goal is to craft narratives that linger in the mind and heart. And for him, storytelling is more than a craft, it's a sacred art. It's about creating connections, fostering empathy, and offering refuge in the soul. He believes that God is the creative being in the universe, and obviously the master storyteller. The grand narrative of the Bible influences essentially everything, and through stories we can experience suffering, discover love, and learn lessons that we would have never been exposed to otherwise. This is why Christian storytelling matters, building stories that reflect the gospel, reveal God's truth in a key way of helping people navigate through the complicated story of their own lives. So today we have Scott Mathias, and he's going to be talking about the Kairos Stories project.
Yeah, you can call it a company. Yeah.
So he's here tonight. I've got a little gift for you. This is beef jerky from Primal Beef. They're a local beef company. They've got some cows here, some cows south in Richmond, and they've got a big distribution center, but you can order steaks, order jerky. Awesome. So I subscribe to their jerky, and I get bags of them that come in the mail. I give them to guests, and hopefully they subscribe, but if not, you can at least just enjoy jerky. So,
well, me and my boys will enjoy it. Yeah.
There you go. Yeah. So thanks for coming on.
Thank you.
Appreciate it. Sorry that we were talking about right before we started. It's a little smoky in here because we had cigars with the former guests. Yes. So we'll re-smoke the room here in a few minutes.
Sure.
For those listening, other than the bio that I just gave you, could you give me a 2 or 3 minute recap of who you are, where you're from, and then we'll get into Kairos?
Sure. Yeah, I can do that. Yeah, thanks, Anthony. As far as myself, I guess I would say that I am a Catholic father of 5, and I think I mentioned you before we start, a convert to Catholicism, and been about 12 years. I'm also, like I said, I've done all these creative projects, but I also have a 9-to-5 job, and I work for an association in the area.
Okay.
That the National Rural Electric Cooperative Association. So,
what is that?
That is started back with Franklin Roosevelt, one of the New Deal projects to electrify rural America.
Okay.
So a lot of associations do lobbying with the government, that kind of stuff. And so we were headquartered in Arlington. And they also, half of the association is really an insurance company for the workers and their families across the U.S., the electric workers.
Okay.
And so I work in the healthcare side. I do healthcare marketing and everything for that. So that's kind of my job. I've been doing that for about 25 years. And then on the side, I've been doing these creative projects. And hoping to turn Kairos Stories into more than just a creative side project.
Okay. Very cool. So you mentioned you have 5 kids. What's their age ranges?
I have 5 boys, and they
sweet.
range from 26 to 9 years old.
Okay.
And so 26, test me here, 23, 21, 14.
I can't fact check you,
9.
so I'll just assume it's true. Yeah.
Well, my wife will listen to it.
There you go.
So, those are my boys. And two of them we talked about. One graduated from Christian College. I know a lot of your listeners are connected with that. But a couple years ago, and I have one currently at Franciscan University.
Okay.
Steubenville.
Very cool. And you guys are in Manassas currently?
We are in Manassas, yes.
Okay.
Yep.
Okay. What's your favorite thing about Manassas?
My favorite thing about Manassas,
other than the Civil War history, which is most people's favorite.
I mean, I like that. I like that it's further out, kind of west and stuff. Than we lived in Reston for many years. I like Reston, but it was getting too crowded.
Yes,
too crowded and too expensive.
Sure,
and maybe too. I don't know.
Do you consider Manassas part of Nova? Because out here, basically anything past Manassas is Nova.
Yeah.
But I would imagine for someone in Manassas, especially if you're kind of like in rural Manassas, you'd be like, Reston and Arlington, that's and DC, obviously that's all Nova, but Manassas is country compared to that.
It is. I think parts of it. I mean, we're actually not far from Seton, so we're in that area of it kind of. So I kind of consider it the edge of Nova.
Okay,
you know what I mean?
The outskirts.
And one reason I moved out there, one was because we just needed, to be able to afford a bigger place. Obviously, you can do that. And Reston was just so expensive. The other thing was just I always find myself coming out this way. So we do a lot of hiking and camping and everything. I was just out here this weekend. We're out in Edinburgh and Woodstock. And so I'm always going out this way. So I got about as far as I could get. And maybe one day I'll get up even further. I don't know.
Okay. So. Yeah. Have you been to Front Royal a bunch of times through like coming to the valley, going to Skyline? Is Front Royal one of the stops, or do you typically go to other places?
One of the stops. Yes, I've been here a lot.
Okay.
Up and down 340 all the time, especially for a lot of, like I said, our hiking and camping. So I'm involved with a group. It's called the Rangers. It's with St. Veronica.
Okay.
In Chantilly.
Yeah.
Basically, about 12 years ago, we got tired of what was going on with the Boy Scouts. And we started our own troop as a bunch of, not myself, but a bunch of former Scoutmasters and stuff. And I think we got a good program. It's been going strong for 12 years now. Okay. My boys have gone through, we have a Master Ranger, which is basically the equivalent of Eagle Scout, and they work their way up. And two of my boys have guided that, and it's a lot of work, but it's a lot of fun. And so with that and other activities, like I said, we're always out this way, camping and hiking and just so I thought, I need to get further out this way because I'm always come out this way. I don't want to go towards the city. I want to get away from the city.
And do you commute to Arlington for your job?
I do.
Okay.
Yeah, I do. I take the train via Arlington.
Okay. Very cool.
Better than driving.
So tell me about Kairos.
Yes.
Greek, I'm assuming.
It is Greek.
Okay.
Yeah.
How did you decide on a name, and how long have you been working on the project?
Okay, well, on a name, a lot of that I will give to Gabe, and he kind of ran it by Christopher, and we liked it. But Kairos is really Kairos time, so that's kind of God's time. That's kind of, you have a chronological time, and then you have Kairos, which is more. And I'm not a Greek scholar here, so
that's okay. I'm not either.
I'll leave it to some of those who are. But it really is kind of, I would say, it's God's time, and so that's kind of the idea that we believe. God, I mean, is working throughout time, and one of the way He works, and that's is through stories. Obviously, you had Christ and His parables, but then you just had the general, just God in time with stories. So we came up with that Kairos stories because a lot of what we want to do are to tell stories that they honor God. That doesn't mean that they're totally, what I would call evangelical stories, but they do have a worldview that is based in what we believe.
And I was going to ask, are these biblical stories or are these non-biblical stories that have biblical principles?
They can be both. They can be both. Yeah. So
this isn't Veggie Tales where it's all Bible stories but kind of retold.
No, it's not.
But it's also not like Adventures in Odyssey or something where it's Christian and has Christian principles, but there's not specific biblical stories.
Correct. And interestingly, one of our actually Christopher Bunn, he did work for VeggieTales for a number of years.
Oh, no kidding.
So, and actually, when we were in grad school, he worked there, and so that was
very cool. What was his role there?
He worked on some of they had a division where they did like games that went with it and products, and so he worked on the video games section of it.
Very cool.
And they would, there's stories with those too, right? I mean,
Yeah.
it's kind of like working with even the storyboard. You make the story, and every video game has a story. You kind of progress through and things like that. So.
Right. Okay. So when was this idea first? Was this your idea, and your partners had similar ideas, and you kind of joined, or did they have the idea and you joined later? What did that look like?
They had the idea, and I joined later. I was kind of a hired gun with no pay.
There you go.
But
as all true art.
Yeah. Probably about 3 years ago, maybe a little bit over that.
Okay.
Almost 4 now, maybe. Christopher and Gabe knew each other, and they were working on this idea together. And then Christopher and I had worked in the past together. I've known Christopher for almost 30 years. And so we've worked on other projects together, and they needed another writer. And, Christopher and I work well together. And now I've got to know Gabe, and I work well with Gabe. And that's part of it, right? And so we came in, and they kind of had me come in to help with the writing and just to create a vision. And then it's developed into more than just us telling a story,
Okay. So, 3 years in the making,
Yep.
or more, maybe,
Yeah.
kind of in your mind before that, but officially 3 years.
Yeah.
What's kind of driving you to say, okay, now's the time, let's get investors, let's put our own money into this, let's market this, let's pitch this to a group of peers, what's the driving motivator behind that? Is it just excitement to get it going? Is it because if you don't get money, it's not going to happen? Like, what is that?
Well, I mean, if we don't get money, I mean, we're looking at, different plans A, B, C, and D. But yeah, I would say part of it's excitement to get it going. I think we have our first story, I think, is a really good story. I think it'll be very interesting. And then part of it is, I kind of, like as you said, they're independent filmmakers more than 10 years ago now. I did an independent film with some other people. Christopher was one of the people involved, but some other people in the area right here. It's all done locally and everything. And back then, I had written screenplay for years. And you submit them to Hollywood. You do all the kind of, you go through the process, and most of the time you hear nothing. It just kind of dies on the vine. Sometimes things would start to get going, and then they would die. And so at least it's similar to this in that way. We said, what does Hollywood really want? They want a movie. They want you to take all the risks, right? And so we decided to take our own script and make a movie, and we did that. Okay. So this is kind of the same thing where it's like we're looking at, I think it's do I need to say it? But the state of a lot of our entertainment is, what can I say?
Pornified?
Yes.
Okay. Yeah.
Definitely.
I thought that's where you're going, so I just totally. Yeah.
Right. And so you can take your product and you put it into somebody else's hands, and it's hard to maintain the purity of that product, right? Or of that story. Literally. Yeah. You're right. Literally.
Yeah.
And so that's part of what motivates us, is that one, for ourselves, and then as we get going, hopefully for other people, is to create something. One, I think there's a big audience out there for this stuff, because I know, I just think about myself with my kids. I'm always looking for stuff that is has our worldview. Does it have all that gratuitous, sex and language and all the stuff, and that we can just enjoy together, know? And so that being said, part of it is I watch a lot of things I probably wouldn't watch, but I watch them with my boys just to make sure, what's going on, because a lot of times it's very subtle too. It's not always that everything is right out there.
Right. In your face.
But it's a lot of times it's the worldview. It's nihilistic, or it's the new Gnosticism, or things like that, or just the things that are there that are subtly.
And I think you see that with comedies a lot.
Oh yeah,
because they mask perverse ideology with humor.
Yes.
And so you're like, it's kind of funny. You kind of brush it off. You're like, I don't want to be a prude to say this is wrong.
Yeah.
And I think everyone does that to a certain extent. But if you have a show, you get attached to the characters, then this character decides to make this decision. Maybe it's still a good show to watch, and maybe you can say, hey, let's watch this. Sure. We're going to watch this character decline, and we're going to criticize them and figure out the bad moral decisions they're making.
Yes.
But most people don't analyze it that way, and because it's a comedy, it's not supposed to be serious. So you watch it, and you're like, yeah, they made this decision, or yeah, they're sleeping around, yeah, they're doing this, but it's a comedy. Yeah. And so you brush it off, and I think that if you let that kind of develop over time, all of a sudden you're like, wait, am I just watching the show that has all of these kind of really horrible undertones, but it's presented as kind of light and it's fine and everyone makes their own decisions and it's freedom. And when you really think about it, you're like, but if this was a movie and they were presenting this as serious, I wouldn't watch it. Yeah. So why am I doing it as a comedy? And I think that's where the youth, in different aspects, but especially in comedy, I've seen where you're like, wow, I really got taken into that. And I kind of just brushed off the political statements or the moral statements that they're making because it's in the guise of comedy.
Sure.
And I think you couple that with there's not a lot of Christian comedy out there.
Yeah.
There's some good comedians. There's some funny movies, but a lot of times because comedy is making fun of crass things or kind of, I don't know, like ridiculous things, Christians tend to shy away from that because they don't want to offend people.
Yeah.
And maybe rightly so. But then there's that gap. And so you watch that comedian that's a little bit crass, that makes fun of things you don't agree with, but it's kind of funny because you sort of get the worldview that they're talking about. Maybe you see it, you observe it. So at least personally, I see that as a real problem where you're like, well, comedy is good and like comedy shows are funny, but they also could be wholesome, but no one's doing it in a wholesome way. You see that with Friends, you see that with The Office. Mostly good, solid shows, but they take these, they kind of present these things as like, maybe this isn't a big deal. And then as you're watching it, you're like, oh, I totally just bought into that. Even though I totally disagree on a moral, like my worldview, totally rejects that, but I'm kind of accepting it because it's a comedy.
Your guard's down and you want to enjoy it. And I agree, and you mentioned The Office. I love The Office.
Totally. Yeah.
And it is great.
Yeah.
But, there are things there. And especially, I always find it too more when I start to watch things with my kids, then it's interesting. You'll watch them and be like, oh, I don't remember. Oh, yeah, you're right.
Yeah.
And these things start to come out.
Same experience. So I watched it a few years back. I was like, oh, I've heard this is a good show. You kind of get attached to the characters. And I remember watching it, and I was not watching it with the idea of like, what's good or bad about the show. Sure. It was sort of like, if there's nothing I need to fast forward, I'll just watch it. And I legitimately remember finishing the show and thinking, it was a pretty good show. I like it. It's quotable. My friend, it's very culturally relevant. Since streaming, especially during COVID, it really surged. Like when it was on TV, it actually wasn't rated that highly. But during COVID, once it was on Peacock or you could buy it on Amazon, there was a resurgence and people start referencing it more, right? It becomes more and more popular, but my wife had never seen it. So we started watching it together in the first few seasons. There's like, a comment or something you fast forward, but it's nothing crazy. As you're getting into later seasons, as I was watching it, I was like, I'm almost embarrassed that I watched this. Not because I've been compromised necessarily, but the fact that I wasn't like, oh, we should skip this episode. Like, no, I didn't even remember it, which maybe is a blessing in a certain sense because I took the good and left the bad, but rewatching it, I'm like, there's actually a lot of bad in this. And I feel embarrassed that she's watching this thinking, oh, he thinks this is a funny show. I'm like, well, parts of it are funny, but oh, wow, I actually would have recommended this to someone. And now rewatching it, I'm like, I would be very hesitant to actually recommend this this is a comprehensively good show. Yeah. There's parts of it that are funny. There's comedy genius. Steve Carell's great, but at the same time, there is definitely things that like that was inappropriate. And I like ending the episode being like, I wish they didn't put that in there. It would have been great if that thing wasn't in there. So, and then there's a prudence that factors into that. But I think in your position, having kids, that must be a hard thing to be like, I want them to appreciate good art and be able to criticize bad art. And how do I present this in a way that's like, hey, let's watch this and then tell me what you think. Was that inappropriate? Was that crossing a line? Or is this, we don't watch this? Yeah.
Well, two things you said. One is funny. Your wife can often be a good monitor for those type of things. You know what I mean?
Totally.
I've done that before too. And then...
you always forget that Braveheart has like 3 things you need to skip, right? That's a great movie.
Well, my wife, she watched Braveheart with me once. She'll never watch it again. But also, we ended up going to this theater, and we were in the very front row. So watching Braveheart in the front row of the big screen,
look down.
I think that definitely did her in. But and the thing too about some things you watch, like you said, what happens too is you feel like all of a sudden they pull the rug out from under you. Things are going along fine, and then all of a sudden, or I'll be watching it with my kids, and I'll be like, oh, okay, and then I'm like, do we continue watching this, or do we, or no, we're done. Okay, we're out now. So there is just, it's definitely that,
Yeah. So what are you guys trying to do with Kairos? Is it, just to kind of get into the weeds
Sure.
of it, is it primarily short film movies? Is it audio stories? Like, what is it? All of it? None of it? Like, what's the medium that you're using?
So our concept is actually we're looking to develop our own app.
Okay.
Platform, and actually it's going to be listen, read, and watch. And so we're actually starting out, and maybe is actually in the world of anime, so animation, anime.
Okay.
And so the concept is that when we tell a story, like our first story is called The Good Thief.
Okay.
So Saint Dismas, and obviously a lot of literary license there, because we don't have much on him, right? But
Yeah, pretty limited.
but actually an incredible story.
Totally.
But the concept is that people will be able to go on and they will be able to, instead of a monthly subscription, really when things come out, you can either buy it as a single format to listen to it, read it, or watch it. So read it would be kind of like a graphic novel. Think about that. Listen, it would be audio story, and then watching it would be the anime series.
And by graphic novel, do you mean like comic?
Yeah, comic, anime, comic, anime, which is kind of more of a Japanese style of animation.
And this would be digital, right?
This will be digital, yeah, it'll be digital. We've talked about maybe at some point making it so if you wanted to buy the hard copy, you could, but right now it'd all be digital. Or you could buy, for a little bit higher price, you could buy the whole package, right? So you have access to all of it. And we found that in just talking to people, a lot of people who are really into that type of stuff, they kind of, oh, that'd be cool. I want to read it and I want to watch it and I want to do all that. And so you can kind of get that whole experience and a different experience too in each way. So that's kind of one of our differentiators that we're looking at instead, but telling the story. And it's also kind of fun for us to be able to kind of shape the story in a little different ways. You kind of go from the whole audio just in your head, listening to it, to kind of, the graphic novel anime, which is really kind of, to me, I used to collect comics years ago, and I don't so much anymore, just time and money and all that kind of stuff. But to me, and I was in the film, and that's kind of the gateway medium between the written to the visual, you know what I mean? And so you have that, and then you have the actual, on screen, let's watch this streaming series kind of thing.
So let's go through those three options one by one. So for the for the audio, is that script going to match the comic version, or is that going to be is the comic version going to have less dialogue because you have visuals?
It'll be close. It'll be very similar. One, especially starting out because of economy of scales and everything, and production and everything. But my hope is, and we've talked about this, is that, you'll get something a little different in the audio, a little bit different in the graphic novel, and a little bit different in the series.
Okay.
Excuse me. It's different experiences and ways to process things. But a lot of it is, they will be very close. I mean, we're not going to do them worlds apart, one, because of just the work that's involved.
Right. Continuity. Yeah.
Continuity and all that kind of stuff.
Okay.
Yeah.
So I guess I'm imagining in my mind the audio version. Let's say you have 5 to 10 voice actors, right? They're going through the whole story. Yeah. Is that going to pretty closely match the animated version? And you basically just have graphics to go along with the dialogue?
Yeah, it would be the same voice actor.
It'd be the same thing.
Yeah, same voice actors. Okay. Yeah, we wouldn't, especially now, hey, this takes off, we grow, things may change, but at first, again, we only got so much money, we got so much production time and things like that. So it would be the same voice actors. Yes.
Okay. And how is that going to work for actually doing the voice actors? Are you hiring subcontractors? Are you guys doing it? You have in-house talent?
Yeah, we're not doing it. We don't have that talent.
Okay. Okay. So you're going to be hiring people?
Yeah, contractors. Yeah, we've talked about that. To start off with, there are a lot of studios and stuff where you can hire the people to do it.
Okay.
And so yeah.
Okay. So and this first story, The Good Thief, it's fairly, I would argue, Catholic. Maybe you can have a Christian take on it.
Yeah.
Are future stories, I guess I don't know, are all the founders Catholic, and it's going to have it's going to be marketed to Christian people, but it has a Catholic backdrop, or are you not all Catholic?
We're not all Catholic. I'm actually the only Catholic.
You're the only Catholic.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, so I am the only Catholic.
Okay.
So it is going to be, I would say, Christian, but also with I bring the Catholic part to it, right?
Sure.
And everything. And so, the story, I would say that the good thief, and it's kind of, we're going to follow Dismas in his life up to the cross, and then there's some stuff that happens actually in Sheol afterwards. I know he goes to paradise, but Christ sends him on a mission. So and so obviously there's a lot of license there.
Yeah.
And our biggest thing is to be creative. You think of things like the Screw Tape Letters and things like that, where creative, but obviously not sacrilegious and not trying to do anything. But so there's always that theme. But I think this is a really interesting story, and I think also in the world of anime, especially, there is a lot of the anime, if you follow, has a spiritual element to it. Not maybe a spiritual element that we would go with, but a lot of it takes place in the spiritual realm. And so there's already, I think, an audience there for that, We're also looking at, you asked about the time of things. There's a real uptick in Gen Z and some of those kids, turning towards Christianity and Catholicism, and they're looking for something, and I think because they've seen the emptiness of what's going on around them. And if you look at a lot of, and this will be in our presentation, I don't have all the stats in front of me, but there's been an uptake in Bible sales in that age group. There's been an uptake in Christian podcasts. There's been an uptake in Christian music. There's been, and also just in the Catholic Church itself. I mean, people coming into the church. I know the last two Easters, the last 2 years have been uptake in that. And so I think there's a hunger out there for spirituality, for Christianity, for stories like that.
Yeah. Have you guys thought about pitching this idea? Maybe you want to remain independent, but have you thought about pitching this idea to like Angel Studios or Daily Wire, other companies that are Christian, conservative, want to kind of create art and say, hey, what if we just create this great product? We do it for a few years and then we get bought out by Angel. And then, they have some creative license, but also we get better salaries and compensation and we can kind of keep doing the same stories. Sure. Have you thought about that? Are you interested in that? Or do you want to remain independent?
We have thought about it, but right now we would want to remain independent. But things change over the years. Sure. Who knows, right?
Totally.
But right now, really, the goal is to remain independent. Yeah.
Okay. Because I think, again, I'm a podcast host. I'm not one of the judges.
Sure.
But if I was one of the judges, I think and I've invested in companies.
Sure.
Usually, one of my first questions is, okay, number one, how much money are you asking for? Yeah. And individual, if I wanted to invest, what are you asking? What's the projected return on the investment? Yep. And then I think for me, and this isn't true for all investors, but the longer term is kind of like, maybe I'm investing in this because I think it has a good return.
Yeah, sure.
And that's what a smart investor would do. Mm-hmm. I would consider myself, and I think probably a lot of the people at Artifacts would say, I care less about the return, although that would be nice. If I put in 10 grand and I get 50, that'd be great. I'm okay with that 10 grand never coming back and I never make a dime and I lose 10 grand if this turns into something that I say, hey, I invested in this company and 3 years later, my kids are using it and it's awesome. So kind of looking long-term, what do you want to do with this? Are you guys going to just build up capital and sell out? And maybe not sell out in a bad way. Maybe it's a good financial decision for you and the investors. Is that something you want to do? Or is that like a non-negotiable? And it doesn't matter. Like if you said, hey, if we got a great offer from Disney or from Angel or whoever, we would probably sell, not because we're compromising the idea, but because we could take that capital and start a new company, or we could pay off our investors. You guys make great returns. Like from an investment perspective, that's fine.
Sure.
But from a vision perspective, that could be slightly different. If I say, hey, I want to put my money into this company, not because I want to make a good return, but because I believe in you guys and your vision. Yeah. What if you sell out in 3 years? Yeah. So like, I'm just curious, what are your thoughts on that? Like, have you guys said, hey, if we get a great offer, we're probably going to sell and that's great for our investors and we'll do it again or we'll do something different? Or you're like, even if we get a great offer, we know we have a good product, we're going to stick with it. Yeah.
Well, I wish Gabe was here because we've had this discussion and he really started this idea and he's very much of the mind of, no, we're not going to sell. We're not going to sell. And you'll see in our pitch, I mean, part of it is obviously we want to build a library, as you do of all these stories. Yeah. And our second thing is maintain end-to-end control, Okay. And so
creative control.
Yeah. Creative control and of the business and everything. So right now that's not on the table. I mean, again, things could change, But I think that the idea, at least how I feel, because one of the things is, like I told you years ago, I did this film. I really enjoyed it, but it was a lot of work.
Mm-hmm. Which film is this again?
This is The Rise of the Fellowship.
Okay.
The Rise of the Fellowship. The only place you can still watch it is still on Prime Video, so it is available on Prime Video.
I'll check it out. What's it about, just for people listening?
Okay. What is about? It is a comedy. It is kind of a parody or an homage to Lord of the Rings, to J.R.R. Tolkien, but it takes place in current times, and there's a group of kids, and it has this gaming competition, but they kind of have this journey. It kind of parallels in their mind and Lord of the Rings, their adventure. And you got characters who stand in for Frodo and Sam and all that kind of stuff.
Okay.
And again, like I said, we did it here, Prince William County, Fairfax County, out here in Mount Jackson.
Okay. And who all was involved in this at the time?
Who was involved?
Yeah, so like you were there, but like
I was there.
Production company was like who else was involved?
Okay, well, we did this all on our own. It was totally independent at all. So we put in some of our own money. We raised money and everything from friends and family. Mm-hmm. We did Kickstarter campaigns, all that kind of stuff. Raised money to do this, and it was all for the most part local actors. Okay, nobody of any name, but some really good actors. Sure. And a friend of mine, Ron Newcomb, and Sean, we did it together, and we wrote and produced and did this film, and and I guess this is some of the experience I'm going to bring to this project, because I mean you said when was the right time? Well, we decided to do it, and we had somebody do us a Hollywood budget. Or it was like $3 million. Like, we can't do $3 million. Scratch. We don't need trailers. We don't need this. We scratched it down, and we probably raised maybe about $200,000 ish. Okay. And then the rest was in-kind gifts, right? Mm-hmm. Let us use this, that kind of thing, and everything. And so probably for about $500,000, we made the film.
What's the length?
The length is hour and a half. I looked today just to make sure it was still on Prime. I think it's an hour and 38 minutes, if I'm exact, if I remember. So it's a feature-length film, and I mean, God was there, because honestly, even that, I mean, a lot of independent films don't get. I mean, we were able to get international distribution and domestic distribution. And we had a plan. Part of it was a business plan, because a lot of times what you have, and I'm guilty, creative people, we want to create, but we don't really have a business plan for what we're doing. Right. You know what I mean? And I ran into that a lot. People who have a dream, and that's great. Totally. But they have a dream, and they keep telling you a dream. And it's almost like, well, you should do this because it's my dream. I'm like, well, yeah, but people don't do that. So we had a business plan, and I remember the day we got the call when we first got distribution. We had sent out our film and everything, and you get that phone call, and hey, we're watching your film right now, and we love it. And you're like, it's great. You sit there for a second, like, well, it doesn't commute for me. You're like, what? Oh, let's talk. And so that was really cool. That was cool. And it was even in Walmart for a little while, Christmas of 2013. No kidding. And so my wife and I, my family, so I'm originally from Huntsville, Alabama. We were driving down there to see family for Christmas. And I'm stopping at all the Walmarts along the way, and I'm going in and taking pictures. Hey, look, our film's here, And my long-suffering wife, that ended up being a long trip, and after a while, she's like, honey, we can't keep stopping. But I'm like, oh, we're in Tennessee. Here's the film. We're here. Here's the film. So that's awesome. It was fun.
How many, just ballpark, how many people were involved in that project, between producers, actors, writers, all that? Wow. We're talking like 50 people, 100 people, more?
More like 100 people at least. Yeah, it takes a village, because we had a couple days where we had probably 50 or 60 extras, which is crazy. Wow, hard to manage. Totally. But we did that, and so it was fun. It was a very fun experience. Really.
Take a couple photos real quick to post later. Sure. And did you? I guess I'll maybe I just have to watch it, and then I'll have more questions on Friday. But if you're doing a parody or kind of alluding to a Lord of the Rings, did you have sets, horses, armor? Like what to what extent was it accurate, and to what extent is it like a modern kind of retelling of it?
It was more modern in that way. We didn't have had a lot of Lord of the Rings. I mean, it took place in the modern world, and it was really the people who are their love for that, right? And so you'll see, it's goofy, but we had fun making it. And I say, I was in one way surprised we got distribution, but we worked really hard at it because we didn't have any named actors, and that's really one of the keys with the film because you've seen this
Totally
on a video cover. They'll put some actor's face on it, and that person's in the film for like 30 seconds,
right?
And that's how they market the film.
Yeah.
But again, we had a plan. We worked at it, and it all came together. And I mean, we even got international distribution, and so places that are France and Russia and all over the place. And
did you guys make any money off it?
We basically broke even. We made a little bit of money, but nothing. You started to with all these dreams of we're going to make all this money, and and that's not why you do it, but you still have those dreams, right?
Right. At least aspirations.
Yeah, aspirations. But we ended up, basically breaking even, which again is not bad because so many indie films don't even break even.
What qualifies as an indie film? And this is my lack of knowledge on this. It's not a leading question. Just like, because I hear that like indie music, indie film, like what categorizes it as indie specifically?
Well, basically, you're not using the Hollywood, the studio system. Basically, you're outside the studio system, and so you're not using all the stuff that they have, and so and there's different levels. I mean, ours was almost what I would call guerrilla filmmaking. It was at the lowest level,
Indie guerrilla.
Indie guerrilla, where we're out there.
So it's non-traditional is kind of what it means.
Non-traditional, yes, and definitely not the studio.
Okay,
and you're taking all the risks too,
Excuse me. No, you're good.
Yeah, you're taking all the risk, and so so that it was fun. I mean, like I said, it was for those years. I worked my 9-to-5 job. So I basically had 2 jobs.
Yeah.
I mean, you working around the clock and trying to get things done, and I mean, we could do a whole podcast on all the stories that from that experience.
Well, let's hear the top 2.
Oh, the top 2.
Maybe not the top 2. The first 2 that come to mind.
The first 2 that come to mind.
Just like crazy stories, inspirational, God's providence.
So on the set. So I was writer producer, but then on the actual set, my job was line producer. And so with the line producer, he's kind of the business manager on set. You got to make sure the set keeps running, and so that the director and the actors, they can go off in their world and do what they need to do, but you're getting everybody else together, making sure everything's on time and all that kind of stuff. And so one of the things is, we shot our film in 30 days straight. So I saved up my time at work. I took a month off. We had a month to shoot the film.
Wow.
And so one of the things you have to do is you got to keep on, every day you got to have a place to shoot. You break out what you're doing and everything. When we came to this day, we were supposed to shoot the next day. We were supposed to shoot at one of the national parks, and they basically pulled out on us, so we didn't have any place to shoot these scenes. So I probably put, I don't know, at least 200 miles, maybe 250 miles on my car that day, just driving around, trying to find a place for it. The next day, we were going to have to shut down production for a day, which would really hurt us. So I'm driving around all day long. I'm getting turned down. I finally go to one of our state parks, Mason Neck State Park. I don't know if you know where that is, down in by Lorton. And I go in them, and it's on a Friday too. It's the day, and I'm like, hey, I got to do this film. Can we shoot here? They're like, you can if it's okay. You got to, but I had to call Richmond. I had to call the office in Richmond, and this is like 4:30 on a Friday. I'm like, I'm gonna get it. So I call the office, and I get this. Somebody actually answers. I said, hey, here's what we're doing. We would like to shoot tomorrow. Can we do it? She said, well, let me check. So I hang up. So I'm driving around the park waiting for this call, and all of a sudden, about 20 minutes later, okay, it's okay if it's okay with the office. So I run to the office. They're getting ready to close. Anyway, we were able. We got it together. We were able to shoot. We kept things going.
Fantastic.
A lot of prayer during that time. But I mean, I got to the point where I was at the point where I thought, well, we're just going to have to shut down for a day, which would really throw us off schedule. So there was that. I mean, other things I can think of. Probably one of my favorites. It's a small little scene in there, but basically, again, I'm running around doing all this production, and then they're like, and it was at lunch. They're like, hey, we need a little scene between this scene and this scene. And so also being the writer, I just remember, okay, shoving down my food and going and writing this scene in about a half an hour and giving it to them. And anyway, I like it. It came out good. But there's a lot of stuff like that. And there's other things where people provided things and were, but it was
stepped up.
Yeah, stepped up and things where had to, you had to stand up for yourself sometimes because I think one of the things that would happen is, you say indie film and you get permission, but you show up with 50 people. I think you're showing up with like 5 people. You got to manage expectations, and everything. And so it was, I look back, it was a fun time. So anyway, yeah, it was good.
Yeah. Okay. So with Kairos, do you guys, it sounds like a lot of what you're going to be doing is you've got the written word or the comic version, you have the audio version, and then you've got animated.
Yeah.
Do you have future aspirations to do live action stuff or partially live action, or is that more like maybe, but that's not what we're focusing on now?
We are not focusing on that now. That's what I'll say. Again, I'll just say, the future can take care of itself, but right now it is. And one of the things too with animation is it allows you to do a lot of things that are more challenging to do in live action.
That you couldn't do live.
That you couldn't do live. Or you could do, but it would cost a lot more.
Yes, okay.
And take a lot more. We're here, you can let your imagination run wild with animation.
Yeah.
And that's really great. And again, excuse me, the anime market right now, 2026, and again, a little preview of our presentation, but it's about a $37 billion industry.
Anime.
And then by 2033, they're projecting $77 billion. So, there's a lot of growth, a lot of room in there.
Wow.
And if you can even get a little piece of that, you're doing well.
How much of the market of that is in America versus, because I know anime is huge in like Japan, Korea,
it is,
China. Is a lot of that market in the U.S. or is that projected market?
Well, there is a significant U.S. market, but, when we're looking at this, we had this discussion, between what is domestic growth and what is international growth. And, I mean, when everything's online, those lines kind of blur. You know what I mean?
Right,
they kind of blur. It's not like, I remember us going around about this because actually some in our presentation, international growth, and we're like, well, but you're going to kind of start internationally in one sense. I mean, anybody can access, as long as, they're a place where they have internet and they can access it. They're not, in North Korea where they won't let, they won't let them access it, things like that, so.
Okay. So creatively, what do you and your kind of group foresee the growth to be? So you've got one story right now that you're working on.
Yeah.
Is it going to start becoming like you do a project, one of your co-partners does a project, the other co-partner does a project, or is it all three of you on one project? You see it through, you post it, next project. Like what's the growth pattern? Is it multiple projects, you're hiring more people, or is it the three of you kind of agreeing on a project, completing it, posting it, next project?
Yeah.
What does that look like?
At first, it is, you said, us agreeing on our project and working together and posting it.
Okay.
Down the road, I can see that expanding out because obviously as your idea takes off, people want more product, right? They want more stories and things like that. But at first, just the three of us. Yeah.
Okay. So walk me through. This is a long format version of this, but what's the elevator pitch? What are you guys going to ask the investors and the people watching at the pitch night? You have, 5 minutes, 10 minutes, whatever it ends up being, to pitch. Why are you a better company to invest in than the other two? What's the future? What's the return on investment on a moral level? Why is this a better company to invest in? All that kind of stuff.
Okay.
Like, if I put myself in the place of an investor, why do I give you 10 grand versus another guy?
Okay. Well, one thing, and it's hard to say better than, but impact on culture. Impact on culture. I mean, I think is a huge thing. Again, like I say, Kairos Stories, God works through time, through stories. And, for better or worse, we are a mediated society. We are, and people are looking for things to watch, things to read, things to see. So we think these are a little better things. So there's that. Also, I think that our concept with our app is unique.
Okay. How so?
Yeah. The concept of the listen, read, watch is very unique, and I think will really draw people's attention. Like, oh wow, I can do all this. I can do all. Instead of I go over here to do this, I go over here to do this. And I kind of do.
Yeah.
I get it all at once and everything. That as far as return on investment, I don't remember all the numbers off the top of my head.
That's fine.
We've got them on the slides and everything, but. The growth, we used some comparables for some other similar, companies, and we feel very confident that we can at least meet their lower projections, those companies, and so again, I'm sorry I don't have the numbers in front of me.
No, that's okay.
Because I'm more the creative guy than the numbers guy, but my sell would be that, and my sell would be that our need for media isn't diminishing, it's growing, you know what I mean? And so, but also, you also have the consolidation of all these companies like Netflix and everything that are kind of doing their
monopoly,
thing. Monopoly. And also they're making it harder for, it's like everything, when streaming started, and I've seen this before, it's like, hey, it's the Wild West, a lot of open doors for people to come in at certain levels and everything.
Sure.
But what always happens is that kind of gets corporatized. The corporations come in and they find a way to kind of take it over and everything and kind of control it. And so for us at our level, we would be an opportunity for ourselves and for other Christian media people to come in.
Okay. So again, not as an interviewer, but as a potential investor. You're Catholic. I'm Catholic. A lot of the guys at Artifacts are Catholic. I don't think the judges would present this objection, but maybe some of the people in the crowd would. Hey, I'd love to give you money. That's great.
Okay.
I want to support Catholic Christian art. How do I know that my money is not going to go towards something that, it doesn't necessarily have to promote Catholic ideals, but what if you create a film, you create a story that's contrary to Catholic ideology, because you're not all Catholic and you're not branding yourselves as Catholic. So you create a story where euthanasia is okay or the abortion pill. I have no idea how that would factor into it, but potentially I want to invest in this company, but what if there's some moral gray area? How do I know that I'm investing in a company that I can, feel confident that this isn't going to violate Catholic teaching or my conscience or whatever? Are there guidelines in place for that? Or is it, again, like you're saying, it's sort of the Wild West where, yes, it's Christian, but that comes with certain discrepancies, let's say.
Yeah. Well, when I was in the Wild West, I wasn't so much talking about our story as much as the opportunity to be able to get into the market,
space.
Into the space. No, as far as obviously, Anthony, probably you have to take my word for it, but I've known Christopher, especially for a long time, and I know Gabe, and while they're not Catholic, I know where they stand on these things, and it's all, at least some of the examples that you gave, euthanasia, no way, abortion pill, no way, and obviously I would be there, and I would have to have my conscience, of what we tell, right? And so,
and just for clarification, I don't foresee one of the stories that you guys are going to promote for kids and teens to be promoting the abortion pill. But that being said, because it's not a Catholic company specifically, as an investor, the objection could be, I want to give you my money, but how do I know that you guys don't take this? Maybe it's not that radical. Maybe it's way more subtle. But how do I know that it's not going to be promoting an agenda that I don't 100% agree with? And as an investor, do I have a decision in that? Or am I just giving you my money for either an investment or as a subscriber? How do I know that the content that's coming out of your production company is going to be solid? And I don't have specific doubts about that. I'm just curious.
No, I understand.
If someone's giving money, they're going to be like, well, if you come out with an animated film or a story and I don't agree with the moral, how do I square that with my investment?
Sure, definitely. That's a good question. I'm going to say that I don't have like a written. This is what we're doing as far as that. But again, I mean, I know myself. I know the stories and then things that I would want to tell would not be in conflict with Catholic teaching. And also maybe I hold a unique position because I was a Protestant for most of my life.
Yeah.
So I kind of, I know the two, right? You know what I mean? I lived in one world.
You know both sides.
You know both sides and everything. And, I couldn't foresee anything like that. I mean, I could always see, like when you do any type of creative project like this, I know I did the film, did some other writing and things like that, there are going to be people who can criticize anything. That just happens, mean, and actually I kind of get onto my sons a little bit about this sometimes because you have that whole online internet culture, which is sometimes it's all about criticism.
The kind of clickbait,
anything that comes out, to the point of I'm like, guys, I'm just enjoying this for one thing, and also that, maybe you need to step back a little bit. But, that's a good question, and I'm going to say, obviously, I'd like to come up with a more ironclad answer on that. But I mean, I know what I would give to and I would support. And so it would be, I think, the same thing that you're saying. I'm not going to get anything that's questionable,
Sure. And I also think that you have to, on the flip side, as an investor, if you're investing in a Catholic company that's Catholic and Catholic owned and all Catholic content, it's fair to criticize them if they come out with something that's not Catholic or anti-Catholic.
Yes.
If it's a Christian company or conservative, let's say, not even Christian, that comes with a grain of salt. So if you're an investor, you could say, I have expectations that they will not violate my faith, Catholic, Christian, whatever. At the same time, they're not pretending to be Catholic.
Yeah.
So if they come out with something that's like a little bit on the line, maybe I can criticize that, but I can't specifically be upset because they're not violating their principles.
Yeah.
I'm just uncomfortable with it. And that's a different scenario because if you're pitching yourself as a Catholic company, you have to abide by XYZ standards.
Yeah.
But if you say we're a Christian company, we want to promote biblical values, whatever, and it's a little bit more broad, 99% of the time, that's probably going to be fine.
Yep.
Maybe there's a 1% gray area, but at the same time, I can't hold you guys to the same standard because you're not Catholic. You're not checking doctors of the church, which is fine. And it's not fair to hold you to that standard either. So I think that's also on the criticism side, that's something to be aware of. It's like, hey, they're not pretending to be a Catholic company. There's Catholics involved. Maybe there's a lot of good Catholic content or at least Christian content that kids can watch. But if they come out with something that's not 100% Catholic, maybe it's not anti-Catholic, but we can't pretend that they should abide by this because they're not Catholic.
Yeah. And I appreciate that. I definitely appreciate that, Anthony. And I think that you hit on something there, especially the whole anti-Catholic. I mean, that wouldn't fly, and that's where I would come in and be like, hey, and Gabe and Christopher don't have anti-Catholic sentiments, you know what I mean?
Sure.
So, and we've known each other for a while. So that would never be the intention. The only thing that could happen is unintentional, because sometimes you don't know what you don't know. I mean, as a Protestant, there's so much I didn't know about the Catholic Church before I converted. I mean, I remember, coming into the church and all the things that I still didn't know, and the things that I've learned over the years, which has been wonderful, which has been incredible. That whole thing there is just an incredible journey. But, I think I can step back, like I said, when I was in the things again that I just didn't know about, or the preconceptions that I had that are like they're totally
incorrect.
They were totally wrong. You know what I mean?
Okay. Yeah, that makes sense. What is there a specific age group that you guys are kind of catering to? I'm not aware of what anime, like it seems like it's kind of a younger thing. Maybe there's just
Yeah,
people that are like their 30s and 40s that like it, but
yeah,
is this more catering to like
kind of that
young adults,
13
teens?
to 30 age range? I think it's kind of right around in there. And so it
Okay.
can be kind of a wide range. And then I think you have people, like I'm the type of person, I don't really care about the media. It's just if it's a good story. You know what I mean? If it's a good story, if it's well told and it's thoughtful, and it has a good, either a Christian worldview or at least a decent worldview, then I mean I'm a story guy, reading movies, whatever. You know, I just that's who I am. You know, and so I think there are a lot of people out there like that as well. You know, who just want a good story and whatever it is.
Totally.
You know, it's anime. I don't always do anime, but this is a really good story. You know, so they end up.
Yeah, and I think you see that in the culture too. Yeah. Like, there's definitely stories that you're like, wow, this is a story about a Catholic, or it's about a really strong Christian, or it has a really good moral message. And other times you're like, yeah, there's like Catholic, Christian, moral maybe undertones, but like Gladiator isn't specifically Catholic. No. And you can pull some Catholic stuff out of there, and there's innumerable films that, like, you know, thousands, millions of films that you could say, as a Catholic, I can receive this well.
Yeah.
And there's Catholic undertones, there's Catholic doctrine, morality.
Sure.
But they're not citing scripture, they're not citing the catechism.
Yeah.
They're just saying this is reality, and it's not in conflict with what I believe. But it's a great story because it's acceptable, it's understandable, it's relatable. And I think that sometimes, actually I'm curious on your opinion of this, I think sometimes Christian films sometimes fail, not because the message that they're preaching is incorrect, but because it's kind of too on the nose.
Yeah,
it's
definitely.
Let's build a story around God's salvation, and it's a very touchy-feely, rather than let's build a good story that has Christian Catholic undertones. So you walk away from it thinking, wow, that's really interesting. He had such strong faith, or he was able to get through this hard time by friends and family and pastors and scripture. Yeah. But it's not, you don't walk away thinking, I think they're trying to like get me to join this Protestant group. Yeah. You just walk away thinking that was a great story.
Sure.
So I'm curious, from the new media group that you're starting, what do you think is the most advantageous way to, I guess, like, preach the gospel, but not necessarily in a super direct, on the nose way?
Yeah. Well, when you look at any type of creative endeavor and look at the world, truth, beauty, and goodness, those are the things, and God is the author of all those things. And he is in all those things. And so, there are stories that can be very, I would say, evangelical. Even, I'll use that term for a Catholic story as well, that is very like, you know, we're walking through the steps and here's Christ and everything. And some of those can be really good, but they also, like you say, can be, you know, the term is preachy, right? They can be a little preachy and everything. And I have a lot of heartburn with those stories, you know, because it's funny. A lot of secular media, I think, has gone that route over the last 10 years or so, where they are preaching an agenda. Yeah. And a lot of their stories have gotten worse because you can tell that they're preaching an agenda, but a worldview, a non-Catholic, a non-Christian worldview, and, you know, with all the stuff, transgenderism and all that kind of stuff. And they are like, we are preaching that and pushing that to people. And that's what the story all becomes about, is it becomes a vehicle to present
and
this.
It's tiresome because your defenses go up. Right?
Your defenses go up, and you kind of know it, and you can kind of see it coming. You know, I was talking with somebody the other day about just, you know, like relationships in movies. Like, you know, I think of Lord of the Rings, you got this Sam and Frodo relationship, you know, and everything, and this good relationship. You see those in current stuff, and you start to say, okay, when are they gonna? They're homosexual or this or that. You know, it's coming. You know, and so you start to get nervous, right? Yeah. You start to get nervous, and you're like, I don't want to be nervous. I just want to watch a show and a good relationship,
right?
You know.
When's the last film that you saw that there was an authentic male to male relationship that wasn't anything more than that?
Yeah, that's a good question.
It's like Lord of the Rings.
Yeah.
Finding Nemo.
And there are probably some others that don't come to mind, but I always get nervous, especially watching streaming and everything, where I'm like, okay,
you're like, something's coming.
Yeah, something's coming.
Yeah.
And every once in a while it doesn't come, and then you're relieved. But I'm like, also, I don't want to be nervous the whole time. Like, because I'm like, I like this, but I'm like, I know what they're going to do. All of a sudden, I'm going to be like, and it happens a lot.
Yeah.
Those type of things. But going back to your question, I think there are stories. Well, I'll tell you one from our film, a little crazy film, Rise of the Fellowship. I actually showed it at an anime conference, and it's not anime. It's totally. We just had a connection and said, "Hey, let's show your film." It was down in Virginia Beach. We went. I think it was Anime Con. Anyway, went there, showed the film. These kids came in to watch it.
Cool.
And somebody, in a way, not our audience, right? But they came and watched it, and I remember talking to this girl came up to you afterwards, all dressed in her anime stuff and everything, young girl. She looked at me and said, "Well, you know that film?" She had this look on her face like she was confused. She said, "It made me feel good." And to me, that was a win, because it's not out there. Because definitely, this is not a film about Christ at all, or even joke. But at least to have somebody, I can imagine some of the stuff that she consumes all the time and everything, and to have something like, there was something about that was good, And I think sometimes we're pointing in that direction, to the true, the good, and the beautiful, and it's almost like you're taking steps for people, right? And so, I mean, that's something I love when I'm reading, when I'm watching something. You just see these moments of truth shining through. You know what I mean? And then sometimes that is the wonderful and the beautiful thing. And it's not so much that we're saying, "Hey, and here's how you go to church and how you come."
Totally.
But you're pointing people to that, and maybe they're seeing behind the veil a little bit. Behind the veil, what's good, what's true, what's beautiful, and ultimately, that's God, that's Christ, that's the church.
Yeah. That's what I always come back to. I don't know if it's my favorite movie. I think it probably is my favorite movie. It's a Wonderful Life.
Oh yeah, great movie. I love that movie.
It's so interesting because there's very minimal. There's not a Christian pastor talking about things. They don't cite scripture. It's normal. I think that's why it's accessible. It's normal. It's a guy who's struggling, who's trying to do the right thing, who kind of keeps getting shortchanged, who's living his life. He's trying to do the right thing. And at the end of it, you see, oh, wow, he didn't become a multi-billionaire. Yeah. He didn't create this new app. He didn't convert the entire town. He was just doing the right thing in a town. He married a girl. He's, again, trying to live a good life. It turned out poorly, and then the town came back and said, "Hey, you're a good person, and we've got your back." Yeah. So I think it really hits on that note of like small community relationships, and like God is there, but I don't, correct me if I'm wrong, but I don't think there's a point in the film where other than when he's praying to God and Clarence comes, and it's actually one of my favorite parts is that Clarence is not portrayed as this like buff, blonde model. He's this very unassuming guy that like if you saw him in a bar, you would never remember him.
Yep.
He's forgettable. But he's his guardian angel, and he's interceding for him. So there's a lot of Catholic Christian undertones to it, but it's not preachy. Like you don't walk away from that movie being like, "Wow, I really felt like Christianity was being pushed on me." Yeah. But you do walk away being like, "Wow, there's something there, and there is a spiritual realm, and there is power, and there's more to life than what's on the surface." In this really unique way, and that's why I like it so much, is that it makes you think about life, and it really makes you reflect, but not in a preachy way. Yeah. And I think that's what good art does. Yeah. It makes you look at reality in a new way, but not in a forced way.
Yeah. Yeah. Capra was really good at that. Frank Capra, who did the film. And that film, it really shows you the value of life, right? It shows you the value of life because, I'm going to say Jimmy Stewart, guy, I forget his name in the
George
film.
Bailey.
George Bailey, that's right, George Bailey. He gets the opportunity to see what life would be like, what would happen if he wasn't there, and he starts to see the value of his own life. And also here, like you said, here's a guy who, a lot of it, he's doing his duty and he's serving others, right? He's serving others. I mean, he passes up these opportunities. There's the need of the moment, which is like so many of our lives, right? There's the need of the moment. And hopefully, like him, we step up to that need. And then, like you said, you have Clarence in there. And again, he is the guardian, but he doesn't come in and solve everything.
No.
He just he provides a little guidance in his goofy sort of way, his endearing way.
Yeah.
And he, at the end, he gets his wings, and everything. And so something that's a good example of a film, like you said, where I think kind of point to that true, that good, and that beautiful, and really to the value of life, value of life. And I think that's a key when you think of false ideologies. One that we have right now is that so many things disvalue life. Disvalue life, and so to me that would be something too, where that's an affirming message of the value of life.
Yeah, and what I like about it too is that it's a really authentic, in my view, a really authentic view of masculinity.
Yes,
and it's not a to be a man you have to make all the money, you have to have all the women, you have to do the business deal, you have to whatever. It's no, actually, a lot of what masculinity is sacrifice.
Yeah, agreed.
Which is what Christ calls us to do, right?
Yeah.
Love your wives as Christ loved the church. He died. Yeah. That's what it's about. But you see that in the whole life of George Bailey, where he could have got the promotion, he could have traveled, he could have done all this stuff, and he decides, no, it's better for the town, for the family business, for my family, to kind of push all that stuff aside and still do the right thing, but it's not about me anymore. Yeah. It's I'm part of something bigger. And I think that's something that film, especially nowadays, doesn't promote. Masculinity is all about, how many followers you have, how much money you have, what the clothes you wear. And in that film, it's very much like, no, masculinity is actually building a life for your kids and for making the town a better place and for having a reputation. And you don't see that in film anymore. Yeah. So when you see that, it's so refreshing because you're like, oh, this is a reminder of like what we're actually called to do as men. Yeah, which I really like about it. Yeah.
Well, Potter gives him the deal right there. The sell your soul to the devil, basically. Yeah. Like he would make all this money and he would be like a wealthy person, but then he sees through and he doesn't do it because he sees what's gonna happen. To the town and to the people and everything, and so he makes that sacrifice. And so that's a wonderful movie. I mean, we watch it every Christmas.
Oh, totally, yeah. Totally. Do you have a number one movie, or at least like a, I don't know, top 10 anyway?
Oh, number one movie. Well, one I do like the Lord of the Rings movies. I've been a big fan.
Do you have a preference out of the three?
Yeah, the third one.
Third one, really?
Yeah, but I also like the first one.
Why the third one? Why the third one? I don't think you're wrong. I've always struggled with liking the third one the most.
Have you? Yeah, I mean, well, I think it's the climax. It's when they're at the end of being put to the test, right? And everything, and you really see, especially, Sam come through. And sometimes I say he's really the hero of the story. There's always, I think, Frodo failed. He didn't really get the, and he wouldn't have made it without Sam. And Sam's my favorite character. I also like 100%. But I like those. But then, I mean, all kinds of movies. I don't know. I'd have to think about it. I mean,
okay. Yeah, I think it's difficult with movies. I've had a few different conversations with people about movies, and I think it's pretty easy to say in this genre, this is the best movie. Yeah. But it's difficult because you're like, well, the Lord of the Rings. So if you're talking about trilogies, like that's great. Star Wars, like there's the Batman series, like there's a couple different trilogies that hold up. But then you get into horror, then you get into drama, then you get into musicals. And there's so many different categories. I think it's difficult to narrow it down to like, this is the best movie of all time. Yeah. Because the criteria are kind of all over the place. Yeah.
I was just thinking of one. It's I would call it more artsy, but and I may have to come back to it. I think it's called Life. It's just Life, but it's this movie. It's a remake of a Japanese film.
Okay, and
it's a British film, and it's just about this guy. He's a public servant. He's kind of a Scrooge character, and he basically finds out he doesn't have long left to live, and these ladies have been coming to him trying to get this. He works like in the Parks and Recreation. I'll use that term. That's not exactly what it is, but they want to get this park made. And he's just been putting them off, putting in the big pile of paper, doing all the bureaucratic stuff. But all of a sudden, he decides, I'm going to do one last thing. So he helps him get this park made. And it's just a beautiful story, and it's just with this coworker, how he helps her and everything, but just where he changes. People are like, "What's going on?" He used to be this cold man, but he kind of like a Scrooge story, but just a beautiful film. I think it's called Life. I saw it a couple years ago.
Okay.
I'll double check it. I'll get back to you on that one. But
Okay.
And there's other films, but
Sure.
that is one maybe people don't know about as well. But it is
I'll have to
a
look into
beautiful
that.
film. Yeah.
Yeah, I always recommend It's a Wonderful Life for kind of, I don't know, just kind of like your everyday movie. It's a Christmas story. It's heartwarming. It's not preachy. It's just a great film. I also usually recommend Man for All Seasons.
Man for All is a great movie. Yeah.
One of the best Catholic movies ever made. Fantastic storytelling. A lot of people who aren't Catholic still really like it because of all the characters and the decisions that are made and the politics of the time. And then
My
usually
father-in-law really liked it, and he wasn't Catholic.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. And then also the play version by Robert Bolt is also fantastic. I think it's pretty accurate, the movie. And then Interstellar. Usually those are the three because it's just like there's a wide range of storytelling and genre, but those three, I'm like, those are, you watch that and you're like, It's a Wonderful Life is kind of bland, but in a wholesome way. It's Man for All Seasons is a little bit different. It's more of a drama. You can see that it's a play that was made into a movie. But then Interstellar is just this like cinematic masterpiece, and it's one of those movies. There's a few others, but I think that one specifically is one of the first movies I remember watching and saying, wow, that was really good, and I want to watch it again.
Yeah.
Like right after. I would start watching it right now. Whereas other movies, you're like, yeah, it was good, but I wouldn't rewatch it right now. But I think that has a really high rewatchable quality, which for me personally rates very high. Like I have questions, I want to talk to people about it, I want to figure it out, and I want to watch it again.
Yeah, we rewatched that several times, and especially one of my sons, actually the one who's at Franciscan, he really loves that movie.
Oh, cool.
And that's really good. I don't know if you've seen Project Hail Mary.
I haven't actually.
Yeah,
what are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, that's a good movie in the sense too that it's one where I was able to take my 9-year-old and my 14-year-old and took the whole family, and we haven't gone to the movie together in years.
That's funny. I've heard that from a few different people. Some friends, some kind of like influencer type people, where they were like, "It's not the best movie ever made." But it's good. It's wholesome. It's entertaining. And we took the whole family to see it. And I think for me, that checks quite a few boxes.
It does.
Because if there's a movie where we're like, oh, it's good, but you have to be 18 to go see it. Okay, it could be a good movie, but if I can't take my kids to see it, or at least my like younger siblings, that's points off. And maybe it's not real points off in the sense that like it could be a good movie and there's just like some cussing or something. But if it's actually wholesome and tells a good story, that's a good movie. You know, it's not a top 100 movie, but you know,
but we need more of that, right? Because that was fun. I was able to take the whole family, and you do have, film. You know, I'm a little bit older. I'm a kid of the '80s, right? You know, and you have films that were fun, but like E.T. You look at it, but when I look back to watch it with my kids, you're like, oh. Language in it, some of the attitudes of the kids and other things, you know. But this one was just, a good, wholesome movie, and it had a positive message, you know. And
was that the author of that book? Was that also the same guy who wrote The Martian?
Yes. Yeah.
Okay.
And I really enjoyed The Martian.
I really liked The Martian.
That was really good too.
I actually think that's a really underrated movie.
Oh, it is. Yeah.
I watched it the first time and people had told me about it, and I just didn't get around to it. And then I watched it, and I was like, this is actually a really good movie. Like. Pretty moving, entertaining. You've got Matt Damon, so you got star quality. There wasn't anything specific where I would say, okay, this is like my favorite movie of all time.
Sure.
But after watching it, I was like, this is a just surprisingly good movie. I thought I would walk away being like, eh. No, but definitely. Afterwards, I was like, this is actually like I would watch this again. Really good movie.
It's a really good movie, and
good story.
And going back to what we're talking about, like Project Hail Mary, I've heard that the book is really good. So that's on my reading list. I've heard that the book is really good. So and that it takes some of the obviously like all books do, it fleshes out some of the concepts more than the movie because the movie. I mean, you got 2 hours, right? Whatever, and so that's always the thing, right? You read the book, you go to the movie, and sometimes they do a good, but they always have to. Kind of compress things and rearrange things to make it work cinematically. And so, but I've heard the book's really good.
Are you going to have that cigar or no?
I'll go try it.
Okay. You don't have to smoke the whole thing if it's too much. I'm curious on a storytelling kind of level. What are your thoughts, I guess maybe personally and then also with the company on like 3-act structure for storytelling? Mm-hmm. So I think for most books, they kind of, books specifically, maybe even more so in a stage production, unfortunately kind of less so in the movie world, but they typically follow the 3-act structure, right? Yes. Where you've got the main character, you've got like the first decision point, you've got the midpoint where they have to make a decision, you have the climax, you have a resolution. Do you think that largely works for most kind of stories, right? Where you've got the 3 parts, you can do it on stage, you can do it in a book, you can do it in a movie.
Yeah.
Is that the best way to follow? Is that the best model to follow? Or do you think that there are other ways to tell stories that don't follow that?
I think there are other ways, but I think that is the primary way and the best way to do it. Okay. Because I think we're kind of, maybe trained that way, but also I think it's how we work naturally with the, beginning, middle, and end. And most movies are that way. Even some that are non-traditional, like one that came out years ago, Memento.
Yeah. Nolan.
It's out of order, but you can put it back together. It's basically a 3-act structure. He just took it and
kind of messed with the order.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. But I think that is the traditional way to tell stories, and you can get into some like with plays and stuff. Like I just read one that had a 5-act structure, and it was good. I don't know if I can even tell you how that worked, but that's I read the commentary afterwards, and it said it was a 5-act. So
Yeah, it seems to me like I wouldn't say that you have to follow the 3-act structure to the letter to be successful.
Yeah.
But if that is the successful model, that is what people kind of expect.
Yeah.
And you see this in movies where, and I've had many, and I'm sure you've had this experience where you have a movie, you're like, oh, the setup is good, the characters are good, the plot thickens, it's interesting, but then the climax is kind of meh. Or the resolution, you're like, wait, so the bad guy gets away? Like what?
Yeah.
And not that he needs to. Maybe there's a lesson in the good guy losing, or in they're setting up the next movie or something. But I think there is a certain amount of, I don't know if I'd call it like moral satisfaction, but maybe that is the right word, where you're like, I'm putting time into this, but I want to see this resolved. I want to see the moral character triumph. I want to see evil defeated. And maybe there's movies where you turn that on its head, it's out of order, it's setting up the next movie, so it doesn't quite follow that. But to me, I think most movies that I dislike, it's like 75%. The first 75% I really like. Yeah. And the last 25%, you're like, it doesn't resolve it in a good way. It paints the villain as the victor. It paints the bad guy as a loser. It kind of twists something at the end, and then you just leave it being like, I didn't really like it. Whereas if they changed it, it would have been a great movie.
Yeah.
Like almost 100% of the time.
Yeah. One thing you're talking about, and this goes back to I wouldn't say false ideologies, but some of the things too, is that a lot of, in our media nowadays, sometimes you don't have bad guys, you don't have good guys. Everything's gray, right? Mm. Everything's gray. Or you have these conflicted, the bad guy becomes the hero, right?
Right, like the anti-hero.
The anti-hero, like things like, and now I'm not thinking movies, I'm thinking like Breaking Bad or The Sopranos or things like that, where they, where they become, and there's some interesting stories, right?
Totally.
And there's some stuff, but, or the fact that you can't really have a bad guy. There are always some reason why they're bad and why they're this and that. And not that that's not true. I mean, it happens in life, right? But I think that some of what you're saying is that, sometimes evil is evil, right? And I think about the story, Our Good Thief story. Well, we're going to have demons and stuff in there. They're evil. They are, they are, and we're not, trying to do I think it's Milton in Paradise Lost, right? Where he tried to conflict the devil. He is what he is, who he is.
Yeah, I think they're definitely, personally anyway, I think there is room to have a villain have a character arc and become good. I think that's okay.
Yeah.
You see that with Iron Man. right?
Yeah.
He's bad.
Totally. Yeah. And I like that movie.
He's a playboy.
Yeah, I like the first one. Yeah.
But he's the overall, like, he's really the main character in the Marvel storyline, and you see him be a bad person. He's spoiled. He's arrogant, and then in the end, he sacrifices everything.
Yeah.
And he's a more interesting character, regardless of what you think about Captain America or whatever. He's a more interesting character because he's flawed.
Yeah.
Because he's relatable.
Yeah.
And you see him progress and then sacrifice. Whereas Captain America is kind of this steady, kind of the virtuous person, which is admirable, but it's not as interesting, at least on a personal level. What I have a problem with, especially, and Disney's doing this a lot, where you're remaking villain movies and to say, yeah, they're bad, but they were abused when they were a kid, so that's why they're bad, so you should feel bad for them. And when they do these bad things, you have to, I don't know, take their background into an account.
Yeah.
And I don't like that because it's like, well, maybe they had a rough childhood and that's sad.
Yeah.
But they still had the opportunity to be a good person and they chose to be bad, and you're portraying this as they're being bad, but they're acting out, so it's fine.
Yeah, you're kind of letting them off. Yeah,
you're letting them off. Yeah. I think there is a gray line that, like, I really liked. I don't know what you think, but I really liked the Joker movie.
Okay, I did not see
Joaquin
it,
Phoenix.
So.
Yeah, I would recommend watching it. I don't know. I think I'm still conflicted on whether I actually like it. Yeah. I just like that they portrayed him and they're like, he was abused, he had problems, he's acting out. But in the end, you're not really sure if you're on his side or against him.
Yeah.
You're sort of like, he's complicated. I think he's evil, but maybe he's a mental patient. So maybe there's some leeway. Yeah. And I kind of like that they leave it ambiguous, because I could be pretty easily convinced that he went through a hard time and he should just be institutionalized.
Yeah.
But maybe there's an argument that there's a place or there's a way that he could be redeemed. So I like the open-endedness of that. What I don't like is that at the conclusion of the movie, if it's like, oh no, actually Cruella, she's a good person. You're like, but she's not. Why are you lying to us? She's not a good person. I don't have a problem with having a villain story, as long as at the end they either are punished for the evil or they turn and become a good person.
Yeah.
What I don't like is when it ends with they're a bad person and you should accept them.
Yeah.
I don't think that does anything. I don't think it's a good story. It's not a good resolution. It's not a good model for kids. And for Disney specifically, they're portraying this as good. And they're projecting it to kids as saying, yeah, you could do this and still be a good person.
Yeah.
It's totally antithetical to the idea of the princess, the hero, the whatever. It's taking the villain and saying, well, they're complicated, so you should accept them. I just disagree with that. But yeah, that seems like a more modern twist on fairy tales and on just dramas in general, where the good guy is arrogant and the bad guy is complicated, and you should side with him.
Yeah, and the good guy's not that good. Yeah, you're right.
And he's not that good. Yeah, right.
Really
He's kind of like prudish, or he's kind of arrogant, and I think that's dangerous. Personally,
no, it totally is. You know, that's even so in our film we did, The Rise of the Fellowship, because it kind of has some of those the feel of like Napoleon Dynamite and those 80 films.
Okay,
but the kids at the end, because there's some things they do, there are still some consequences. You know, a lot of these films, I think back of them, the kids do stuff, and there's no consequences at the end. You know, and maybe they, you know, like in ours, they borrow a car. You know, but there are some consequences for doing that. You know, and we made sure that kind of at the end, it's not real heavy, but we kind of showed that hey, they still got the consequences for what they did. You know what I mean? Because that also happens in films where, and it's fun, and you know, you think, but you're like, okay, well, yeah, but in real life, I would have gotten in trouble for that.
You'd be in jail.
I got in trouble. I would have had to pay for that, or I would have had to do something. You know?
Yeah.
So,
on maybe a somewhat of a closing note, although we don't have to stop now. You've mentioned a few times that you converted. What was the cause of conversion? Was that a long process? Fairly short?
It was
involved in that?
It was a long process, and I would say there were a couple, several factors.
Okay.
One was, it's funny, when I went to grad school at Wheaton College, the alma mater of Billy Graham, so very Christian and conservative.
Evangelical, right?
Evangelical, very evangelical. But in that, I was exposed to liturgical worship and some of the other, like I grew up Baptist, very low church and everything.
Alabama, right?
Well, I was born in Alabama, but really my dad was in the Navy, and so I didn't spend much time there. I was all over the place, but mainly Virginia Beach area. And so I went to a great church. And so I want to say that because, I know people will listen, my family and stuff who are Protestant, and I'm very thankful for how I was raised, and I'm thankful for all of that. But we in college, my wife and I were exposed to some liturgical worship, so I'm like, oh, this is interesting, right? And kind of seeing the different forms and everything. It wasn't Catholic. Well, actually, we did.
You dabbled.
We dabbled, yeah. There was a friend of hers that was in a charismatic Catholic community. So that was very interesting.
Okay. Was there a lot of overlap?
In what? In the sense of?
In the typical evangelical services that you would go to and the charismatic Catholic services?
No overlap at all. No
Okay.
overlap at all. At that time, it was very foreign to me. And it was but then there are also some others like, some Episcopal and things like that. And when we saw the liturgical worship, I'm like, oh, that's interesting. And then I read a book or part of a by Eugene Peterson, who is not Catholic, but he was talking about the centrality of the Eucharist. And I'm like, well, if it's so central, I mean, in a lot of Protestant churches, you do it once a month. It's obviously very symbolic and all the things you go and everything. And you do it once a month and then anyway. And I felt like, or sometimes you don't even do it that often. So I'm like, if this is so central.
Why is it rare?
Yeah, why is it rare? Why are we doing all this stuff? But the real thing that brought us into the Catholic Church, so my oldest son, Peter, he's 26 now, he is autistic.
Okay.
He's autistic. And so my wife and I were really looking to what does salvation mean for him? Because in the Protestant church you have, believe in your heart, confess with your mouth, and you're saved. What if you can't confess? What if you can't,
Right.
And so I went to some Protestant ministers and nothing, and what does that mean? And they don't really have a good answer for him. And so that had us searching. And then my wife really, as often happens the case, I hate to say it, but she was really the leader to the Catholic Church. And she was ready to go years before I was. Because I was kind of like, hey, I can't throw the baby out with the bathwater. What about this? I mean, I was raised Protestant and all this stuff and everything. And so I thought it. But finally, I started going to RCIA, getting questions answered. And when I came into the Catholic Church, I didn't have all my questions answered. But I knew it was right. I knew God was leading there. And so I had to come to a place where I said, God, I don't understand everything, but I'm coming in. I'm coming in. I'm going to do this. It was interesting just as because this happens a lot, at least it happens a lot in my life. I don't know about other people, but one of the biggest fights that my wife and I ever had was she was kind of looking for some direction, and she talked to a priest, an Opus Dei priest. Well, I had read Dan Brown, the what's that? Anyway, it's his books. If anybody, probably people listen know them, very, very sacrilegious, but they had the Opus Dei priest as the villain in the book.
Okay.
And so I thought it was some cult. And so I was like, what are you doing? Da, 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 and my wife could say, that's one of the maddest she's done. Because I'm a pretty laid back guy. I'm pretty laid back. I don't get mad that often, but I got mad and everything. So bring all that around, I'm actually a member of Opus Dei now. So God
circle.
has this sense of humor, But I remember, and Father Larry, and he would go to Christendom some and do confession. Wonderful. He's a saint. I mean, he passed away a couple years ago.
What's
pray for the
last name?
soul. I'm going to have to say I don't remember.
Oh, that's okay. I was just trying to figure out if I knew him.
Yeah. I saw him on the campus of Christendom, at least when Christopher was there.
Okay.
And, but he would go there and do confession. He was all over the place. I mean,
awesome.
But it's just interesting. But anyway, really a lot of it, I say, my son Peter, I'm thankful for him. Having a child with autism is challenging. But also, I kind of thank him for bringing us into the church, because we had him baptized and everything. And we try to get him to Mass most Sundays. My wife's a saint. She really brings him to Mass and makes sure that he receives and everything. And, and some people tell us that he is a saint, because of just, he doesn't look at the world like you and I do, and I don't know when he does things that are wrong. I'm putting air quotes here. People can't see the thing, that he's really doing things intentionally, and everything. And, so that's how we came into the church, really, that whole process. And it was several years, and my wife was ready to go before I was,
What were your big objections?
Objections,
other than the Opus Dei, like what?
Yeah. Well, Mary.
Okay.
Mary was one, which now I love Mary. And I'm like, why in the world
Beautiful.
why did I ever object to that? You know what I mean? I mean, Christ's mother, come on, That was probably one of the biggest ones, and then just other things that I just didn't understand. Even some of the saints and everything, which now I love praying to the saints. I'm so glad. I mean that's wonderful, right? That's wonderful. And just not understanding certain things, and I know there was a Protestant in my life who asked me about coming into the church. And at the time, he basically said, Scott doesn't know what he's talking about, because my answer. But I'm like, so there was just some humility involved, right? Because I had all this stuff I had learned over the years, and I'm so thankful for that. I got to keep saying that because I knew Christ and everything, but I kind of feel like Jews who come into church, you call them completed Jews.
Yeah.
I feel like now I have the fullness of all that it means about the church. About, and all this. And plus, one other thing that kind of started bringing me into the church, which is kind of interesting, you go to this evangelical Protestant school for grad school, but we read a lot of the church documents, right? The church fathers. And you start reading, and I'm like, I start reading them, and I start hearing this stuff, and I'm like, wait a minute. I almost don't understand how people can read the church fathers and not come to the conclusion that the Catholic Church is the universal church, that is the church that's founded by Christ. And you might have some objections. I mean, not all the popes are great and everything, but it's still the church.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Totally.
So I'm like, I started reading some of these church fathers in different classes and stuff, and I'm like, wait a minute. And that was there, but I still didn't. It was still a few years before I came into the church, but it was there. The seeds were planted.
What was the biggest, kind of like shocking moment? Not before you came into the church, but after. You're like, okay, I'm Catholic, got baptized, got confirmed, fully in line with the church, and then like a few years in, you're like, wait, we believe this? Wait, hold on. I didn't know that. Were there any moments like that where you're like, not as a lack of RCIA, or I guess they call it OCIA now. Not that they didn't tell you that, but maybe it didn't really set in. And then you're like, oh, I'm 3 years into this, and now, oh, this is a thing. And I have to actually adhere to this because this is what the church teaches. And I guess we talked about it, but maybe we glossed over it, or I didn't really think about it, but like, this is a big deal. Was there anything like that where you came across like, dang, whoa, okay, I guess I have to like really kind of hunker down on this point. Like this is what I believe. I'm Catholic. I have to adhere to this.
Yeah, that's a good question, Anthony. I mean, part of it I think was Mary.
Okay.
It took me a while, but I remember when I came out, I said, I know this is right. I know you're calling me God. I'm coming in whether I understand it all or not.
That's beautiful.
And over the years, I've really come to love her and understand her role, not that we're worshiping Mary, but she, like so many things of grace, she is pointing to her son. She is leading us to her son. And, and that's just wonderful. That's beautiful.
Why do you think that was a problem? Was that the Protestant background where that's...
It was a Protestant background that, you pray to Christ alone and you worship Christ and, and the whole idolatry, like, are you creating an idol here, and, you got all the statues and everything and all that stuff and
May crowning. Yeah.
Yeah. And all that stuff, and you realize you're like, well, wait a minute. No, we're not praying to these. This is not an idol that I'm praying to. This is somebody who's leading me and pointing me always not to herself, but to Christ, and I'm like, you want to get to know somebody, you talk to their mother, right? You talk to them, and all that stuff. And then the other saints as well. Another thing that I think is beautiful, and I do a lot, is just praying for the repose of the souls of all the people who've gone before me.
Yeah.
And I love that, and I just find that an honor. And there's some people in my life who I'm not sure what their final destination is, but you know what? That's between them and God. That's up to God. But I'm going to pray for their souls, regardless of what what I think, and that's wonderful. And I love doing that, Actually, on the way here, I was praying the rosary in the car, and then at the end, I was just praying for it and thinking about all my, my family and my friends and my acquaintances and my coworkers who have gone before me, and I'm praying for their souls, and I don't have that answer, you know what I mean?
Sure.
And that was even, even in being a Protestant, there was the condition of people's souls, because you would have people who started out strong and maybe didn't finish strong, and then it's like, well, are they saved or not? Are they saved or not?
Yeah. And I think that's so cool, thinking about the power of prayer and the fact that God is outside of time.
Yes.
Or you can pray for things that have already happened.
Yeah.
Or happened decades ago.
Yeah.
You can still pray because you're like, well, God works outside of time, so he can apply this prayer. He can work things in a way that I can't understand, but I have the faith that I'm praying for someone that died 10 years ago.
Yeah.
I can still hopefully intercede for them.
Yeah.
Maybe they're in heaven. Maybe they're in purgatory.
The
Maybe
prayer
they're
was
not.
already prayed as far as God is concerned.
Right. So it's not a waste. It's not they converted on their deathbed, so they're saved, or they're probably in hell because they committed this sin and then died.
Yeah.
We don't know.
Yeah.
But God's mercy is outside of that. So in a weird way, it's haunting because you don't know. But I think in a more important way, it's comforting because you're like, no, I can pray for my parents or grandparents or kids way in the future.
Yep.
Because I'm inside of time, but I have the faith that God can work outside of time. So retroactively, he can apply graces or help people in a way that I can't understand, and it's not my role to understand. It's my role to do what I can, pray for them, and maybe I'm the person that gets them to heaven with God's grace that I'll never know about. Yeah. But I'm happy to try. Yeah. And I think that's so powerful. And then I think that Protestants, to their credit, I think are prayer warriors.
Oh, totally.
But once it gets gray, they're like, well, we don't really know what to do. And I think for Catholics, it's like, well, we can still have masses said for them. We can still pray for them. We can do this novena. And maybe they're in hell. God will he'll use the grace however he sees fit. And having that confidence that this is going to be a positive regardless. Yeah. It's kind of comforting to be like, it's not up to me. Yeah. God gets to decide this person's salvation and my salvation, etc. I'm just doing what I can. Yeah. Yeah. It's way more human, and it's way more, I think it's easier to square with reality. Yeah. Where you're like, ultimately I'm not in control. I don't know what's going on. No. Things change, people die, people move, it's all chaotic, but God has this vision, and so I can just try to cooperate as best I can. I think Catholics do that in an extraordinary way. Yeah.
Well, and it's our story, too, with Kairos Stories, our first story, The Good Thief, with Dismas on the cross, right? Yeah. I mean, at the very end, remember me in paradise. Remember me in paradise,
it's
and it's beautiful, and, that I mean, he's our first saint, you know what I mean, and everything, that's amazing, that's all it takes, and we don't know, and I don't want to be that judge, I don't want to be that judge, I've decided, anybody I pray for them, I pray for President Soul because I don't want to be that judge, and God is going to work it out. And when we get to heaven, I think we're going to hear some beautiful stories.
Yeah,
that we were not aware of.
Sure. What on that point with The Good Thief, is there literary references you're using, church documents, church fathers? Like what are you using to kind of flesh out that story? Because we have the scriptural account.
Yeah.
Do we have more? Yeah. I'm kind of unaware of I know there's not like a church statement that he's definitely saved, although I think the evidence points to that.
Yeah.
But do we have other stories, whether fiction or nonfiction, that you're kind of using to flesh out that story?
We don't have a lot. It's mainly scriptural. We do also have the names Dismas and Gestas is the name of the other thief, at least. So we use those names, but other than that, it's mainly scriptural, and then our story goes beyond that, right? And so that is the story that we're telling, and I go by the church. I mean, Dismas is a saint. I'm sure he's in heaven. You know what I mean? So I take that authority, and that's another thing too, which is. You talk about coming to the church was also church authority, right? Because you have all kinds of flavors of Protestant churches, right? And it is, they would say the Bible's the ultimate authority, and it is in one sense. But also it's like, okay, things happen, things change. You got the founder, it was just like, it's the whole apostolic succession and all that kind of stuff, too, that when you look back, and again, that was reading the church fathers where you're just like, well, it's right there. You know what I mean? And I have a lot of Protestant churches that would say, let's go back to the early church. And what they really mean is let's go away from the established, but I'm like, well, you go to the early church. If you really look at it, it's Catholic. That's what you're really saying. But they don't say that, or think that.
Sure.
But, so.
Okay. Interesting. What, for maybe on a closing note for the pitch night, what are you guys expecting from the judges, from people in the audience? How are you prepping for this? Because, you live here, they live in California, they're coming out for this. What are you kind of prepping for, not only your pitch, but like Q&A, post Q&A, just talking to people? What's the pitch for, hey, we have a Christian media site and there's hundreds of them. Why your site? Why these stories? Why us?
Yeah.
What's the pitch for that?
Yeah. Well, as far as preparation, I mean, we meet and we've been going over our presentation and kind of going over iterations, and then Gabe's flying in on Thursday, and so we'll be doing Thursday and Friday. We'll be doing some live person presentations, working on our presentation and everything, And as far as our pitches, I think when we have a very unique story, at least our first one, I think we have a unique concept as far as our platform and everything and all that. And then as far as, what we expect, I kind of look at God's providence, right? And, if nothing else, we will get good feedback on our concept and everything, which will help us move forward. Because again, this kind of just fell into our laps, right? At this critical juncture, we have some other ideas to go to talk to other investors, and actually tomorrow, Gabe is talking to some Protestant investors and everything, and so this just kind of opened the door. I kind of feel like in these projects, if you step through any door that becomes available. Totally. That's your part, right? You pray, you step through the door, you move forward, you take advantage of the opportunity, and you don't know what it'll be. It may be that we just get some really good feedback from you guys, and that's wonderful. Or maybe we get some investors, and that's wonderful, and so we're prepared for that. So that's kind of what we're looking at. And part of it too, because going back to the film and other things I've done, is that, enjoy the process. Enjoy the process. Even this, I mean, I didn't expect to be on this podcast, but it happened.
Yeah, a week ago, I didn't know who you were. So
yeah,
fair enough.
and it happened, and I'm like, okay, God, I'm going to go do this podcast. I'm driving here today, and I'm like, I have no idea what questions Anthony's going to ask. And 'cause my wife asked
you and
me,
I are in the same place. Yeah.
yeah, my wife asked me that, and
I don't know either.
I said, honey, I have no idea what he's going to ask. I'm just going. I'm going to do this podcast. And like I said, I looked at some of your podcasts and listened to some to preparation and everything. And I'm just happy to be here. And I've seen a lot of the people, Father Scalia and Father Gregory Pine and some of the professors. I'm like, who am I? Well, okay, I'm coming.
Great.
God opened this door. I'm going to do it.
Yep.
I'm going to talk, and we'll see what happens. But for whatever reason, God set this up, and so and I think that's wonderful. And I've kind of, as I've gotten older, I kind of often every day I kind of pray, hey, God, just order my day. Just order my day. And I'm going to, whatever you do, whatever you bring, I'm just going to be part of it and do it. And I kind of like it that way. And it's amazing sometimes things that happen. I'm like, God, I wasn't expecting this, but okay. There I go.
Check.
Let's do it.
Yeah.
Let's do it. You ordered it. You have a reason for it. Let's go and do it.
Yeah. Very cool. Well, thanks for coming on.
Definitely.
I appreciate it. Thanks everyone for tuning in. And if you're interested in more information about the project and Scott and his friends who are starting this new media company, come on Friday.
Yep. Please.
Ask questions, invest. And even if you don't want to invest, subscribe, follow them. What's the best place for people to follow you, to invest, etc.?
Right now, it is Kairos. That's Kairos Stories. That's all one word. .com. That's our website. And there's a little thing there where you can enter your email. You can send us information and all that kind of stuff.
Sweet.
And that's the best thing at the time. And obviously that may change over. But right now, that's where we're at. Yeah.
Okay. Awesome. Thanks for coming on.
Great. Thank
Appreciate
you, Anthony.
it. Yeah.
Appreciate it.